What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and so I'm making this video today for a couple reasons. One, there is a little bit of relevant news that I wanted to inform you guys about, kind of an update on one thing I was saying from yesterday. Also, I wanted to talk about some of the other YouTubers, the Dolphins YouTubers, because we, aside from the mainstream media, right, you have us, right, the YouTubers. I mean, it's different, right, because like you have mainstream media who, they do a little bit in the papers locally in Florida, but obviously it's primarily like TV, right? They, CNN and Fox and ABC and, all these different, ESPN and blah, 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 all these different. Now, obviously they do have a digital online presence, and I would say that's probably where most younger people get their information from. But the YouTubers were kind of like a separate thing, right? Because none of us are like, mainstream in the sense of like, none of us have like credentials that allow us to get into like, the facility, or, we don't have connections and stuff. We literally take the reporting that everybody else does, and we disseminate that to you. And, we're all different, right? So there's me, there's K-Flexin, there's Douglie-Do-Wrong, there's Phins talk. I know that there's some other ones, but those are the, those guys. I mean, I'm not quite there yet, right? They've all gotten past the 1,000 subscriber mark. I'm pretty sure each one of them has at least like 5,000 or 6,000 a piece. So they've all grown, pretty large. I'm hoping to get there myself, hopefully in the not so distant future. But I'm still in the early stages of mine, and so I'm working towards it. Also, there is one article that I want to read to you guys and discuss that a little bit. So first things first, the information, the news is Brian Flores spoke today, and he said, he said it in his press conference yesterday as well, but he said it again today. So it looks like, barring anything unforeseen, it looks like Ryan Fitzpatrick will continue to be the quarterback. Now, last night I reported that, there were reports that the Dolphins could be, making a switch, and Brian Flores was semi-non-committal, right? Like he, or a semi-committal rather, because he said he said Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be the starter. But he did say that they will evaluate over the week and so on and so forth. But he did double down on that today from yesterday. So we'll obviously monitor that and see how the rest of the week goes. But like I said, dude, whether it's this upcoming week or in, another week or two, it's going to happen at some point that Josh Rosen ends up getting put in as the starter, because again, and so first of all, Ryan Fitzpatrick totally downplayed the beating that he took yesterday or whatever, and there were reports confirming that he did actually have a gash on his nose, on the upper part of his nose, the bridge of his nose, because of the beating he was taking yesterday. Now, is that the most severe thing? No. Josh Rosen obviously had a knee scare, during that game. So, you got to be careful there. But look, it's because they're getting hammered. The quarterbacks are getting hammered, right? He downplayed it or whatever. But at some point, and clearly, in the first two games, he's played awful. Josh Rosen, they're not doing him any favors. Yes, it is a small sample size. Yes, and the rest of the team sucks. Yes. But Josh Rosen didn't play much better either in either game, right? So Did he do some things a little bit better than Ryan Fitzpatrick? Sure, but there are some things that Ryan Fitzpatrick does or did a little bit better in his time, right? So, I mean, look, they're both, I do ultimately think that Josh Rosen is obviously, I mean, he's the younger quarterback. He's got more potential and more upside, and I do think he's overall better. And I think at some point it is going to happen, and it is going to make sense to, you know, to let the kid play, right? You know, just to see, I do agree that, I mean, you should see what, you know, he is capable of and so on and so forth. However, I've been saying the whole time that it doesn't matter which quarterback is in. Even if, you know, we still had Ryan Tannehill, right? And I would have taken him for sure over. I mean, obviously, if they would have done things more how I wanted to, this entire team would be different. But if they made all the same moves, drafted the same way and everything, but still had Ryan Tannehill, he would get murdered behind this offensive line. So, and, you know, also, I want to talk about a lot of people were mentioning, you know, certain things, right? Like, I mean, they mentioned, you know, a lot of it was in reference to Kalen Ballage, so what I'm talking about is a lot of people were talking about the drop passes because there were a lot of those. There was also, you know, Kalen Ballage, one pass, one of the pick sixes, the one that Jamie Collins took to the house, he just kind of bobbled it, fucked it up into the air, and just kind of handed it to what's his face, to Jamie Collins. And then you have the one play where he just like ducked the football. It was, I have to say, it was one of the most astounding things I've seen. It's so, like, not expected. These are professional football players, right? So, like, you never expect them to duck a football for any reason. They're more likely to just get hit in the face by it because, you know, there's not many reasons why you would duck it, right? That's like a timid, scared thing. So, like, I never played football for, like, my high school or anything like that, but I played a lot of football as a kid. Right? Like in my neighborhood. It was almost like an everyday thing. And we played a lot. Rain, sun, snow. It doesn't fucking matter. We were out there. Hurricane. No, maybe not if there was a hurricane. But we were literally out there like almost every day when I was a kid playing football. And I took I was a small, scrawny kid. I'm only 5'7". I'm more built now because I've been working out for years. But, although I did lose a lot of weight since my hand was broken for like 3 months. Anyway, but so, you know, I took a lot of hits and, you know, so on and so forth. And I know that, like, you know, you do it because, like, you're scared. Like, not like, you know, massively scared. You're just like startled, whatever. Like, you know, you're like, right? Like you just see something flying at you, and the timid kids, right? The timid kids out on the field would, you know, their natural reaction would be to, you know, to like duck it or whatever, right? But these are grown ass men, and these are football players who've been playing football in most cases for like their entire lives. They don't have that, and they're at the national level, right? In the National Football League. They don't have that timid factor, right? So there aren't very many reasons why, there are even less reasons at this level why you would do that, right? Or why that would be a reaction. Man, and then, you know, like I said, all the drop passes and stuff like that. And then there was even, somebody was joking around about it. You know, they weren't being serious for sure, but somebody was joking around about how they were like, man, I still think Eric Rowe is playing for the Patriots, right? Because he came from the Patriots, right? But they were like, because he's, you know, he's giving up like so much, blah, 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 blah. Well, so what I wanted to say about all of that is, first of all, clearly, you know, receivers got to make catches, and Kalen Ballage, dude, you can't be, you know, fumble fucking the ball right into the defender's hands for a pick six, blah, 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 blah. That's all obvious. But look, guys, I mean, at the end of the day, the media, a lot of the media, a lot of the fan base believes it, but a lot of the media, this, you know, coaching staff, Brian Flores in particular, they are trying to have create this veneer that everything's good, man, everything's good within the locker room. And you're even getting statements from you know, some players along those lines. But keep in mind that the media doesn't get to talk to the entire team, right? And in fact, the players that they talk to have to be available for the media, right? So the team doesn't, you know, the team has a say in that. If they want players not to speak, then they won't let them speak, right? Don't think that that is something that doesn't happen, right? There is a level of control to that. And also, not only that, but they obviously do specifically talk to the team and tell them, hey, look, you know, if and when you do speak to the media, you know, avoid these things, these topics, or, you know, if they ask you this, say it in some really fucking, you know, vague, politically correct kind of way, right? So, this, oftentimes a lot of this stuff, although a lot of these guys are, you know, like Jerome Baker, I mean, he said, you know, we got to trust the process, but he also said that, you know, the guys sure did want to ask, you know, about some things, you know, why things were done in a certain way. I believe it was after the first game, or whatever, or maybe it was still preseason. I don't remember. No, I think it was after the first game. Anyway, point is, and I'm paraphrasing what he said, but it was something along the lines of, you know, guys wanted to ask him why he did this, but, you know, we were afraid. It was shortly after the Tunsil trade. So I think it was before the first game. Anyway, but, you know, but we're afraid that our job could be next. So, you know, we don't, right? So, you know, and that's real. That's, you know, that's honest, and, you know, whatever. So a lot of that stuff could be talked. My point is that, like, look, guys, and, you know, there were reports of possible, you know, revolts with the Tunsil thing. Obviously that didn't happen, or it hasn't happened yet. There's, you know, a lot of people, certainly there have to be some players within the organization. Albert Wilson for sure has to be one of them, right? That didn't like how the Kenny Stills thing was handled, right? So, and then there's the Minkah Fitzpatrick drama, dude. There's just so much, right? Like, it's like you'd have to be super ignorant or willfully choosing to not notice that there is, Brian Flores does not have the full support of this roster, right? Like, they're not buying in to this shit that they're selling, right? So, you know, getting back to the whole point about that stuff, like I was saying it, right, there was some, and Brian Flores had said that, you know, he feels like the guys played hard for 60 minutes, and, you know, there was some tweet, I want to say it was by Cameron Wolf, who said that, you know, there was clearly no lack of effort or whatever. Bruh, I don't know about that. When I was watching the game, I actually got a pretty big vibe that a lot of these guys just really weren't even trying, right? And so, but think about this. So let's take Jakeem Grant, for example, right? So in his first year, he had a problem with muffing punts and stuff like that, and whatever. And that was like his primary role. He didn't really play much in the offense. The couple times he did, he made like 1 or 2 catches, dropped 1 or 2, whatever. Year 2, he fixed the punt problem, stopped muffing punts, started getting more involved in the offense, had some drops, right? But then eventually he cleared that up. Well, now, in this, at the very least, with the new regime that's in power, it seems like Jakeem Grant has taken pretty major steps backwards, and they just signed him to a long-term contract. At least long-term on the surface, since it's like 4 years, but when you look at the details, they have an out for next year, and it's highly incentive based as opposed to having, you know, guaranteed money or base pay. But anyway, you know, so why is that? Well, there's two reasons that are possible. One, it could be that this, you know, this coaching staff and this, you know, I mean, it would be primarily the coaching staff, not so much the regime as a whole, like not so much the front office, but this coaching staff is stunting his growth, right? It's not him, because that kid has, you know, puts in fucking work. You know, he solved his punting, his ability to field punts by going out there with the kicker in the offseason and catching hundreds and hundreds of balls, right? So it's not like the kid doesn't have the work ethic. So there's two possible explanations. Either this coaching staff is stunting his growth and making him regress, or he's not bought in and he's not fucking, you know, not giving it his all, man. And he's like, you know, I mean, it's just, is this shit really worth it? You know, like really, right? And the way Kalen Ballage ducked that pass, bro, like, I don't know. I'm saying, like, obviously a lot of this is speculation, right? Like, I can't say 100% sure for sure, at least right now, that, you know, these guys are dropping balls and, you know, because there's also Preston Williams dropped a couple balls, right? Now he was an undrafted free agent. He's a young guy. So with him, you could say, well, you know, no matter what, he would always try and give his all because it's his first, he at least wants to put out tape. So, you know, good tape. So that way people, you know, can see what he can do. And so he wouldn't want to drop balls. So there is that aspect. Like I said, right now it's speculation. I can't say for sure, but it's something that we should not discount or that we should, you know, say is unequivocally not the case, because I think that there is a lot of, you know, evidence to suggest that it could be the case. All right, so moving on from that, I do want to talk about a little bit more about the, you know, the other YouTubers, because I watched, you know, I'm trying to watch more of their stuff, and you know, I'm also trying to make sure that I link their videos into the videos that I watched into my description box, so you guys can watch them for yourselves, you know, and see, you know, for yourselves what you guys think, you know, because I mean, sometimes I agree with them, sometimes I disagree with them, so, you know, I'll give you my perspective and my evaluation, my responses, blah blah blah, and you make up your own mind. So, you know, when I do talk about them and reference specific videos, I will have in the description box, so you can check those out and make up your own mind. So, first of all, TD, let me start with TD. He's a good dude. You know, he's got a good heart and stuff like that, and he means well, for sure. I think, for one, his videos, I gotta say, are tough to watch, you know, like, because a lot of his videos are super long. He does a lot of like live streams. They're super long. You know, I know my videos can get a bit long too, and can breach an hour sometimes, but I mean, he goes like 2.5 hours, and there's at least with mine, it's pretty consistent through. Like, I just talk a lot, but I put out a lot of information and stuff like that, right? So at least there's that. With him, it's like, you know, 2 hours of, you know, a lot of talking, but there's a lot of, you know, kind of like filler time, or like, you know, I don't know, like, you know, the thing that comes to mind is white noise, right? Or like gray matter, right? You know, stuff like that. Anyway, there's like spaces, right? And so like, you gotta like fast forward sometimes to get through it, so you can get like, cause whatever. Anyway, super long, so it's kind of hard sometimes to watch through them, but I do try and watch, because I do like to get all of their different perspectives. But man, like, out of all of them, he's the one that like confuses me the most, because the motherfucker, man, like he oftentimes he just doesn't make sense, right? Like the one point he made the other day about, you know, Minkah Fitzpatrick not being, you know, competitive because he doesn't want to be on this trash team and waste the prime years of his football career on this nonsense and garbage, right? Like, I've been saying it for a while. One of the big problems with the way that they're handling this is all of these young players that could be good, could be great, or the ones that are, Xavier Howard, for example, he's wasting the prime years of their lives with this trash, right? So to say that he's not, no, it's actually more competitive. It's actually being competitive, or having the desire to be competitive, to want to get out of this nonsense. Go somewhere where you have a chance to be competitive. You don't have any chance here. None whatsoever. Like, so, like, it doesn't make any sense. So he confuses the shit out of me. Like, a lot of his arguments just don't make sense to me. So there's that. But I mean, he is, you know, he's a good dude. I know he means well. One of my problems with some of these guys though is that, you know, because they do have prominent followings. They have thousands of guys, and they do, you know, they got people that trust them, right? And trust their evaluations and their perspectives, and they look to us, right? So that's why, like, we're one of the big reasons why we're different from, you know, mainstream media and corporate media is that, you know, they only have to do what, you know, their producers and what their stations say, right? And ultimately, you know, what the people who run the place, right, the owners of those stations and so on and so forth have to say. So they have, you know, moneyed interest, right? There's a lot of capitalism and financial ramifications for their reporting and stuff like that, right? So, and obviously it's also mainstream in the sense of like a lot of TV and stuff like that as well, right? But for us, we, you know, we talk directly to the fan base, to the people. You know, we're a lot more in communication, like, you know, interactively, right? So, you know, because we answer questions, we get involved with you guys, like we do live streams and we talk with you guys, right? So we're actually a lot more in touch with the actual fan base and connect to the fan base, and we are responsible for the messages that get put out. And so, like Doug, for example, again, like, I respect him. I think he's a smart dude, and, you know, whatever, but man, he tries so hard to convince himself, to convince himself. I mean, and then obviously he perpetuates the same message outward to everybody that follows him, but he tries so hard to convince himself, man, that this is good for us, that this is going to be successful, and that somehow, you know, at some point, like, nobody can say, right? Because there's some people who say that, like, oh, next year we're going to turn it around and we're going to be better. There's people, he even says that this year we're not tanking and we're still going to win games, right? There are people that still out there that are out there that still think we'll win 4, 5, 6. Some people that even still think 7, 8 games. Dude, come on. Like, you are kidding yourself. You are absolutely kidding yourself, right? So, like, I want him to be better, man. Just wake up. He just needs to, like, wake up. Doug needs to just wake up, right? K-Flexin, actually, and I'll be honest with you, and I've said this in my videos, he was actually, for the most part, the one I liked the least, because, but it was silly, and he's certainly grown on me, and, you know, I've changed my views. I really enjoy his videos. He can be quite entertaining, and honestly, we actually agree the most. The one thing really, like, so, because I watched his video, so I watched these guys' videos on, you know, what happened and whatever, you know, in this past game with the Patriots, like the reaction videos and stuff, right? So, but the one thing that he said that I disagree a little bit on is because, like, you know, he was like, people were getting up in his comments and stuff being like, you know, Brian Flores needs to be fired. He was saying that he's not calling for any job or anyone's job, and the reason he cited was because he feels like it's we're designed to fail, right? Which is absolutely true. Totally agree with him on that. And that's why Flores coming out all, consistently saying that we're not tanking, which is essentially lying to everybody's face. There's no essential about it. It is. He's just flat out lying to everybody's face because it's super obvious. And what K-Flexin had said is, actions are more important because they are. And he was like, he said, he's like, yeah, and you could say whatever you want. I'm paraphrasing. You can say whatever you want, but I can see, right? Like I can see the actions. And that's totally right. Agree with all that. The one thing he said that I disagree with is that he was like, I don't want, because he's coming at it from a perspective of, because he does have a little bit of thought that maybe, this could work out in the long run, right? Possibly, maybe. I don't think he really actually thinks that, because he seems to be, pretty logical and so on and so forth. And he's not really far behind me in the thought process, right? So like, he sees a lot of this stuff, a lot of this reality. He just thinks that, something along the lines of that a lot of people think is that we really just needed a shakeup, right? This, honestly, I'm not going to lie, the regime that we had in that regard, the regime that we have is kind of like the Donald Trump presidency, right? Like, a lot of people were super frustrated economically with things going on in this country, so they just wanted to really shake up the system, so they elected Donald Trump. Well, there are a lot of people that feel that way about this franchise, right? That for the past 20 years, we've been just mediocre, and that we just really, really needed to shake it up. Well, you shook it up to the point where we're going to be far less than mediocre. And so the thing is part of why I say that he needs to be fired, and why this entire regime needs to be fired, starting with Stephen Ross, is because I do find it disrespectful, not just to the game, but to the fan base and everything. I would never adopt the process of tanking. I think it, especially in football, because football, it doesn't even work. Okay, there's no major example of it actually legitimately working. Certainly not to this degree, to the degree that we've taken it, right? And we are gonna. This team is already been and is on pace to be the worst team in NFL history. So, like, why would you do that to your fan base, right? And then look, there's an easy way to solve, right? Because K-Flexin was like, well, he's kind of in a tough position. No, he's not. He put himself in this position. This regime put themselves in this position, right? The easy answer is just don't fucking tank. You don't have to lie to the fucking fan base and the media and everybody else, to the public. You don't have to create these rifts within the organization and within, within your roster. You don't have to fucking do these massive purges and get rid of talent and leadership and experience and production and all of these things just because. You don't have to do that. It's not necessary. Okay? So it's a choice that they made. That's why they have full responsibility for it. 100% responsibility for it. And again, I know a lot of people hate this, but I juxtapose it to Adam Gase. He got fired on the basis of two problematic seasons, year 2 and year 3, because of things that were not under his control. The injuries, the hurricanes, the AWOL linebacker, the offensive line coach having to fucking be fired, losing your bye week that year and having to play 16 straight games, being displaced in California for a week, and then that first 3 weeks of the year they traveled more because they got displaced from Florida, had to come to California, stay here for a week, then they went to I think they may have gone back to Florida really quick, or maybe for practice or whatever. Although I think they flew straight, because they went to New York after that, and then London after that, because the NFL refused to cancel the London game and send it back home. So they had to fly more miles or travel more miles in the first 3 weeks of the season than any other team had to all year, right? Or most teams had to all year, something along those lines. So you know, all shit that Adam Gase had no control over, but he got fired for that stuff. But there are so many people that want to defend Brian Flores, Chris Greer, and everybody else in this regime for their terrible decisions and say that, no, they shouldn't be blamed for that. Like, are you kidding me? No, and with K-Flexin's case, I just think, you know, I just think he probably needs to think about it a little bit more, right? Because he's almost there, and that's why I said I agree with him the most out of any of them. Doug, he just, goddamn it, he needs to stop trying to convince himself. And TD, well, yeah, he's something, man. He's a character. So, like I don't want to be mean to any of these guys, right? Like, I want us to be able to come together and each be, you know, a source of truth for the people and for the fans, right? That's what I care about, right? And that's why I do this, right? Because I care about the truth. You know, somebody said the other day in a comment that I have a bias towards Adam Gase. You know, and somebody before had said that I have this quote-unquote gay love affair with, you know, Ryan Tannehill and Adam Gase, which is absolutely absurd. And, I mean, honestly, that's like a fucked up thing to say, especially in the world today. But whatever. I'm not super sensitive over words. But my point is it's ridiculous. And no, I have a bias towards facts and truth. So you can argue all you want that Ryan Tannehill is not a good quarterback. The facts just say otherwise. So if you want to live in that reality, I don't know what to say to you. I can't help you, what have you, right? The facts speak to the opposite. His Dolphins records, the NFL record he holds, blah, blah, blah. How he improved every year. When you look at the full context, I've gone over this a bunch of times. If you think Adam Gase is not a good coach, you're just wrong. Because at least up to this point, did they have a rough time in their first game? You know, yeah, and they lost the lead, sure. But I didn't watch the whole game. There are many factors. I don't have the full context into that and why that happened, so on and so forth. Do they got to be better? Sure, whatever. But I think Adam Gase is going to continue to have a good career. And he's going to have a good career as a head coach. But his record up to coming to the Miami Dolphins and through his first year was phenomenal, right? And I had a comment saying that, you know, he rode on the coattails of Peyton Manning. Dude, that's not true. He was Peyton Manning's offensive coordinator and his position coach for a lot of the time that he worked with him. So, what do you mean? Just on that alone, he clearly has a major role to play in, you know, Peyton Manning's success and the success of the team, especially when you're the offensive coordinator. So that's just illogical, and it doesn't make any fucking sense, right? To say that he was riding on the coattails. Not to mention the year that Peyton Manning set the record for most touchdowns in a season. I believe it was 2015, because it was the year before Adam Gase came to the Dolphins. Peyton Manning was already starting to show some pretty significant signs of decline, but he still managed to get him and the rest of that team in position to set that record. And then, you know, shortly thereafter, you know, the next year he didn't do so hot and ended up retiring, right? So, you know, after Adam Gase had left. So, I mean, just to say that he's not a good, it's just factually inaccurate. So, anyway, but that's why, I don't want to, I'm not trying to, you know, when I say things, like, I think Doug's just super naive and is super trying to sell himself, right? But I want him to be better than that, you know, because I think he is better than that. He just needs to wake up and stop ignoring the realities, man. I know it hurts. I do. Like, I get it. I know it hurts. It hurts to think that you're, you know, that you're the team that you love and the organization that you love and everything, you know, would do you dirty like that. I know. I get it. It hurts, man. I feel that pain too. But we all have our ways of handling that. you know, and my way of handling that, you know, I'm not saying anybody's way is necessarily right or wrong. I do have my opinions on that because I think certain ways are not helpful. Like, okay, fine, I'll be honest. I don't think his way is really helpful because he's fooling himself and then he's fooling other people too. Because again, he does speak to a few thousand people, right? So anyway, I want him to be better. So I hope that maybe, you know, one day I can help sway him just by even having the conversation, you know, maybe not even directly, but with you guys, and then you know, you guys bring certain points up to him and whatever, right? So, but whatever. I mean, he lives his life. You know, I can't make him change his mind, and if he feels that way, he feels that way, right? So, but anyway, part of the point is I also wanted to show that, right, like, it depends, right? So I don't like, I'm not just like hating on Doug or whatever, like some people seem to think that I'm just shitting on him or whatever. No, like sometimes I agree with him, sometimes I don't. I don't really, you know, agree with, like with him, it's, you know, it's more like even, like, because I don't really agree with his approach and stuff like that, and I think he needs to like kind of wake up. But like K-Flexin, I agree with almost everything, but there are a couple things I don't agree with, right? So I agree with him more. And then TD, just like a lot of what he says just doesn't make any fucking sense to me. He just says a lot of random shit or whatever, and a lot of it seems to really be based in, and Doug too, a lot of it seems to be based in emotions, not logic, right? So, you know, I'm the kind of person that I think that emotions are important. They are part of what make us unique as humans, and they should be part of the evaluation, part of the overall context and stuff, but they should not be, you know, the deciding factor in the majority of decisions, right? Logic should prevail almost in all cases, not always, and obviously the level to which you weigh, you know, emotions and feelings is different based on the situation. But in this, it's football, and so we should be, you know, the logical mind should prevail, not the emotional. Anyway, so that's where I'm gonna end the discussion there of that. And see, this video is now getting, you know, pretty lengthy in and of itself, so I want to wrap it up. I do want to end though with this article. It's by a Craig Davis at Dolphin or Maven Sports .io. Dolphin Maven, the Dolphin section. So it's a you know, it's a sports website, and this is the Dolphin section. Anyway, so this is what he says. There's no quick draft fix for this Dolphins mess. How many more weeks of this? Right. The tank travesty of this Dolphins season is only 2 games in and already pushing historical levels of ineptitude, which is a fact. And I mean, we've already set franchise worsts, you know, because of these first 2 games. Oh, real quick, I did want to mention, and this is a good time for it, we are already historically bad, right? So the point differential of -92 through our first 2 games and being outscored 102-10 through our first 2 games of the season is tied for the worst ever in NFL history, modern NFL Super Bowl era history, tied with the 1973 Saints. Ever. It's tied for worst ever with the 1973 Saints for worst point differential and you know, whatever, right? -92, blah 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 blah. It's just, we're already setting those records, right? So real quick again to touch on why I want Flores, but not just Flores, this entire regime to be out, including Stephen Ross, is it's multi-pronged, multi-leveled. Terrible football decisions, absolutely atrocious performance and production so far in the first 2 games, and then there is the moral, personal aspect of, you know, I think that they're proving to be kind of like shitty people, and that's putting it lightly, right? Anyway, It would be difficult to recall a more incompetent showing, particularly on offense, than Sunday's 43-0 drubbing by the Patriots. That is, if memory was limited to less than a week and you'd already forgotten the Ravens running it up 59-10 against an all but invisible Miami defense in the opener. I just don't understand how people can think somehow this is going to get turned around. No, with every week that this happens, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. With every new injury we get, it's going to be worse and worse and worse. The dissension is going to grow. More people are going to want out. More people are going to buy out and quit on the team. Or not even the team. It's just going to be, and look, because at some point, these players are not going to have to really even worry about quitting on their teammates because the entire team is going to fucking quit. Nobody's going to want to be part of this fucking garbage. The first downs through the first 3 quarters against, oh no, I'm sorry. 2 first downs through the first 3 quarters against the Patriots. 2 pick sixes allowed. One of them should be charged to the receiver, not the quarterback. Absolutely sure. 7 sacks allowed. So 102-10 in the first 2 weeks at home. That's how far this once proud franchise has retreated in a strategic rebuild that must have been masterminded by Colonel Klink. Okay, so real quick though, I don't really see any strategy to, taking a fucking sledgehammer to your walls, right? I don't really see any strategy to calling in the wrecking ball to fucking demolish your house. There's not really a strategy there. It's just, aside from destroy, right? So, and also, he did say that it is a tank in this article, but we certainly need to far jump past any thought that this is a rebuild. This is so far past a rebuild. It is categorically 100% a tank. Full-on tank. They can deny it as much as they want. They're just going to continue lying to everybody if that's the case. But it is a full-on fucking tank, right? And again, one that they should be held responsible for. And the fan base, especially in football, like, it might be one thing. In baseball, tanks actually can work, right? And so, it might be one thing to say, hey guys, for the next 2 or 3 years, just give us a chance. And if after that, then, off with our heads, so to speak, you could fire us, right? Because it can work in baseball with the way baseball is designed and built and so on and so forth, with the way that their contracts are, and there's a lot of factors that go into it. It's not as brutal of a sport physically, right? So there's a lot of factors that go into it, but football, it doesn't work. So, but not only that, they've done it to the point where now this is going to be I've been saying this multi-years. The tank job itself is going to last like 2 to 3 years. But then it's going to take several years. It's going to take a few more years after that to recover. This regime's not going to last that long, and they shouldn't. But again, Stephen Ross needs to go as well. Granted, an organization stuck in the throes of mediocrity for 2 decades needed to try something different. True, maybe, but not this. And frankly, again, Adam Gase was doing things different. We hadn't been in a situation because, right, what Adam Gase did, some key things that Adam Gase did differently than previous regimes. Let's see. 1, he focused on building through the draft and starting to cut out those big contracts. Eventually he got rid of Ndamukong Suh, right? Starting to get rid of those big contracts and not overspending in free agency. He wanted to focus more on his players. He said it, they said it time and time again, and they showed it in their actions by the contracts that they gave and so on and so forth, the extensions. They're like, yeah, we want to draft, and they drafted right. A lot of the guys that we talk about now, even Xavier Howard and Kenyon Drake and Minkah Fitzpatrick and all these other guys, right? The few potential pillars that we have left, Tunsil, a lot of these guys were from that regime, even still now, right? But anyway, so, you know, they were building you know, a culture where he was both friends with and also the boss of his players. So he was able to joke around and have a good time. They had open dialogues. They could bounce ideas off of each other. Whereas Brian Flores is like, nope, it's my way or the highway. Shut the fuck up and do it as I say. Nah, fuck that. Anyway, but so, right? He was building things the right way, and again, got fired prematurely for things that weren't his fault. So we were there, dude. Come on, guys, we were there. If they would have just gave him this season, gave him one more year, he could have found us another corner to be opposite Xavier Howard. Our defense would be... We didn't have like any holes on the team. We could have filled them in this past draft, you know? And then we could have, you know, we could have had a good season this year. But no. Anyway, let me continue. But in a league in which the system is geared for parity, it should never be necessary for a team to strip itself to this depth. Absolutely. For those who have bought into the process of rebuilding through the draft, it's delusional to think these threadbare Dolphins are going to rise from this mess by stockpiling a handful of extra draft picks. The way this and real quick, not only that, but also how you use that. That's why I'm saying it's such a giant gamble. You're getting rid of so many guys that you know for sure. You know for sure from Kenny Stills, from Kiko Alonso, from Cameron Wake, Juwan James, Ryan Tannehill. All these guys you know for sure. TJ McDonald, right? All these guys you know for sure. And they are good to build around, right? And to fucking... We didn't have many holes until they purge. We created the holes. This regime created the holes. None of this year needed to happen. This tank didn't need to happen. Even the rebuild didn't need to happen. The way this season is going, there's nothing for Dolphins to look forward to until next April 23rd, draft night. But this isn't a one draft fix. The Dolphins have turned themselves into an expansion team. Early in my career, I covered the Tampa Bay Bucks 2-26 first two seasons. 2-26 first two seasons. That is what we're looking at here. Many holes to fill. There are no guarantees in the draft anyway, particularly for an organization with a subpar record of picking talent dating to the previous century. Absolutely. Again, and that's one of the big reasons why I will never take a quarterback in round 1 or 2. Take one every year from 3 or beyond, depending on how big or how big the need actually is. But never, and certainly never chase one, right? Because again, there are far more examples of first round quarterbacks either being busts or just average. We have one on our team right now that is following along at least, you know, if nothing else, the average path, right? Because he's not being given any favors in the first 2 places that he's been, right? He's not being done any favors. So, and then you have guys like Tom Brady who are late round picks who become superstars. He's one of, if not the greatest quarterback of all time, and was not a first round pick, right? So it's how you use this as well, and there is no guarantee. That's why they're super gambling. Laramie Tunsil is a generational talent at left tackle. He fell to us, fell in our laps, and that's why it was not worth it. It was not worth the draft capital, the random roll of the dice that you maybe you're going to get a quarterback and one offensive lineman on an offensive line that doesn't have anybody that you know for sure. Like, come on, man. Now, there are so many holes to fill, and they seem to have no qualms about digging more. Yes, they need to find a stud quarterback, but if you can't put a team around him, what do you have? You have Josh Rosen last year in Arizona, or this year in Miami. Trading away a young left tackle like Laramie Tunsil seems counterproductive, regardless of the return of high draft picks. Now there are indications of willingness to trade defensive back Minkah Fitzpatrick, another recent first rounder, and perhaps running back Kenyon Drake as well. If Coach Brian Flores can't figure out how to make productive use of these talented young players, I'm beginning to question his aptitude as head coach. Can only imagine what his players are thinking. And I've been saying this. Brian Flores legitimately has been riding on... Now, again, that's not to take away any contributions he may have given, but he's been riding on the coattails of the Patriots organization. You can't say that Brian Flores, because he has 5 rings, that he should be given some, like, undue credibility. No, because a lot of that he spent as a scout for the team or a positional coach for the team. Even last year, he wasn't the defensive coordinator. He called plays, yes, but Bill Belichick did not think he was, maybe just not ready or maybe not, apt enough to be the actual... I think it was more likely he probably just didn't think he was ready, because he did give him a shot at calling plays, right? But and the performance and the production, clearly the Patriots defense is doing just fine without Brian Flores. And again, I think that it had to do more with the Patriots themselves and the entire team and the players that they had, and the fact that they get highly favored by the refs and various other factors as to why they put on such a good performance in the Super Bowl last year. Like, Jesus Christ, dude. Brian Flores... anyway, let me just continue on. The Flores era couldn't have gotten off to a rockier start. Sunday's game looked like what happens when a major college team faces an outmanned FCS opponent. Like Bethune-Cookman did against the Hurricanes on Saturday, the Dolphins hung with the Patriots for a while in the first half. But even when it was still close, it felt as if the Patriots could do whatever they wanted, especially when the Miami offense could do nothing at all. Miami Miracle distant memory. I thought they played hard, Flores said of his defense. I thought the communication was better, the tackling was better. I thought they played hard, and it's a good New England offense. We got them off the field a couple times. Can't knock the effort of the defensive players, especially in the first half. Later, when the runaway train gathered steam, that unit was gassed. On New England's final touchdown, a 10-yard screen to James White, the Fort Lauderdale native had 4 blockers escorting him to the end zone. None of them could find a single white jersey to block. By then, the memory of the Miami Miracle had morphed to the South Florida Sham. And the fourth... Now, I am going to push back on that. Nothing's going to take away that Miami Miracle, and it was a totally different regime. So you can't shit on that, because god damn it, it was the old regime that gave us that brilliance. So it was lucky to some degree, but it was brilliant. It was a brilliant call, brilliantly executed by the players, and they caught the fucking Patriots with their pants down. So fuck yeah, it was genius. It was genius from Adam Gase and that team. Anyway, in the fourth quarter, the TV camera showed Dan Marino, who looked like he'd eaten bad fish at halftime, with good reason. And I actually mentioned that as well during my live stream. Is there any logical explanation for Kalen Ballage flubber handing a routine swing pass into a pick six? And what's with a receiving core with an aversion for the ball? Rosen, in mop-up duty, put deep balls right on the mark to Jakeem Grant and Preston Williams, and neither made the catch. Earlier, Devontae Parker was unable to out-wrestle a defender for a spot-on long throw from Ryan Fitzpatrick. Telling you, bro, it's just going to get worse and worse. These guys are going to buy out, especially again because Brian Flores in practice throughout the week is like a fucking, there have been multiple reports, he's like a slave driver. He is beating them ragged during the week. So it's not, and especially his defense, that's even worse for them because they're going to get tired up during the games on Sundays. So that's a good idea, dude. Wear your defense out even more in practice throughout the entire week, and then send them into the fucking games, just completely exhausted. I mean, it's a disaster in every single way. There is no upside. There is no good. There's no real silver linings to this. And people need to wake up and stop trying to find them, because there are none. The only thing that needs to happen is this entire regime needs to be replaced, starting with Stephen Ross. Anyway, let me finish this because my video is now almost an hour long. Give Rosen a chance. As for the quarterback situation, there's no question Rosen should be the starter going forward. He's more mobile and showed the arm strength and ability to deliver the ball on target downfield. Real quick, he's actually not really known for his legs, and I would say Ryan Fitzpatrick is more known for running. Now, he is younger, for sure. He's probably faster because Ryan Fitzpatrick is old as fuck and has taken a massive beating over his career. So there is that. But I do absolutely think that Rosen should be put out there. You might as fucking well at this point, right? Just to see, what he has. But of course, this coaching staff and regime is, look guys, the decisions, we have to keep in mind that the decisions that they're making are very likely, at the very least, in with the goal in mind of being as bad as possible. Okay, now I said it'll be 2 to 4 weeks, somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks before they do swap him out, because Fitzpatrick either gets murdered, or metaphorically speaking, or he performs so bad that finally they take him out. It's going to happen, but they should just do it, right away. I mean, I don't see any reason. I mean, because certainly if you really do mean it, and you want to go out there and try to give your team the best chance to win every Sunday, it's not Ryan Fitzpatrick. It certainly is Josh Rosen, right? For as much as I think he's not going to be around this team for much longer, either, and I certainly don't think he's the franchise quarterback. I mean, I absolutely agree with that. Just put him the fuck out there, and he certainly does give you the best chance to win, if that's what you think. But clearly, I mean, he's making the decision. I mean, we have to wait till Sunday to see what happens. But to this point, he's been pretty stubbornly stuck on Fitzpatrick. Why? Because he doesn't care to win. He's lying to everybody because he believes that, somehow accumulating all of this draft capital and cap space and blah, 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 3 years from now, they're going to be doing great things. It's foolish, but okay. I mean, he believes it, so he's going to continue lying to everybody. Not to say Rosen could rescue this already lost cause, or that Fitzpatrick is necessarily to blame for the offense's woes. If this miserable season is going to achieve anything, why not find out what the former 10th overall draft pick of Arizona in 2018, Miami traded a second-round pick for, can do and get him some experience? Absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. Although, it also does say what they think about him, right? That they're not going to fucking put him out there. After the game, Flores said Fitzpatrick is the starter for now. That could change before next week at Dallas. Maybe it's not even in Rosen's best interest to play, considering the inability of the line to protect either passer. He nearly blew out his knee scrambling out of bounds. But it's madness to keep beating one's head against the same door and expecting it to open. How many more weeks of this? Well, unfortunately, no matter which quarterback you put in, it's going to be technically 15 weeks, although we have obviously a bye week, and so our bye week is week 5, but it's going to be 14 more games of this. Like, people need to get it into their heads immediately. Nothing is going to get better. This team is not going to get better, and it would be a miracle to win a single game this year, because we're designed to fail. They're trying to fail. And the more we fail, the more it's going to breed failure. So, I mean, people need to get that through now. Anyway, okay, so this totally did go on for an hour. I know that was a lot. It was certainly more than I actually intended, but there was a lot of good stuff there, and I did want to get that out for you guys and give you the updated information. So, Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to be the starter as of right now. and I wanted to give you more context, and I did want to discuss, you know, some of the perspectives of some of the other YouTubers and stuff like that, just to kind of compare, contrast, and as well as, you know, hopefully put out the point and message that I want us to unify and to help lead this fan base as well in the right direction, you know. Anyway, so with that, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here. I hope you guys enjoy my videos. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section, and of course, as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I'm out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.